the Daily Caller. Holy ish, Sean Ryan aghast as Charlie Kirk's security leader reads texts he allegedly sent university police. In this story, the head of security for Charlie Kirk says he asked the police chief at UVU about roof access, to which he said, "I got you covered." For this, Charlie's security team said, why bother checking the roof access or the roof at that point? He also said in another article that they weren't allowed due to local laws to fly drones. However, Frank Turek says they had drone footage of the crowd and drones were being flown. Something is wrong. Now, at the bare minimum, I'm going to call shenanigans on these claims from security, and I think it's worth the conversation with you guys. In these texts, he says, "Hello, Chief Long. We received this message today from the student group. There is a student roof access pretty close to where Charlie Kirk will be set up at Utah Valley. The Sorensen Student Center has a couple staircases that go up to the walkways up to the roof." The chief responded, "You want access to the roof?" He says, "I was told students have access above us. If this is true, it would be nice to either have it controlled access or allow one of my guys to be there as well if possible." And he said, "I got you covered." He said something to the effect of, quote, not even to the effect of, quote, "What else am I to do when a command level person from an accredited police department says, I've got this area?" He didn't. He said, "I got you covered." So they never had controlled access. He didn't have a guy on the roof. And the first question in the Charlie Kirk assassination everybody was asking is, why didn't his security sweep the roof? The sad reality is, if they had a janitor on the roof, Charlie would be alive. So why then is this security company and the police department incapable of having grandma knit a sweater right in front of one of these doors to the roof, or this access to the roof? How is this possible to have happened? Now, Hanlon's and Occam's razor suggest these guys are incompetent.
Yep.
I got to be honest. I got security. I got crazy security. We've got from the highest level former SEAL team guys, current PMCs, and they do wet work. They go on missions into foreign countries to take out bad guys. And when they're here at home, they do executive protection. And when I talked to some of these guys, I said, "What do you think?" And they're like, "BS. They didn't check the roof door. What?" And one of these guys said, "You put a janitor on the roof. Charlie Kirk's alive. This makes no sense. How did that company not have?" Nobody's buying it. One thing I can say is, because I don't know how this happens, is personally, I would never go anywhere near any of these guys who worked security for Charlie Kirk. Because it actually is quite simple. When he says, "But the police said I got you covered." Why are you hiring private security? Because the police can't do it all, and you don't rely on them. So when we do events in D.C., there's police all over the place. We still have private security guards controlling entrances and exits, and we don't just say, the police are outside, it's good. They said they'll take care of it. No, they said they'll take care of it, and then our security guy goes, talks with them, checks the exits, and then confirms with the private company. I'm curious what you guys think this means, though, or what's going on.
This blows my mind. TP USA, Turnpike USA, Charlie Kirk, huge, giant, big time, big threats against them, and they're security guards, and they're paid lots of money. Why would they not have anyone even look at the door or see if it's covered, if it's locked or not, with what they're being paid and how special Charlie was and how important it was?
I don't understand why.
0 cents.
When I do security, I talk with the security guards.
Yeah.
They say, "Okay, Tim, here's the plan," because you have to. There's no circumstance where in any event we do, I just say, I plug my ears. The security guards come and say, "Okay, Tim, here's the plan. In the event of an emergency, here are your exits. Here's what we intend to do. We're going to have 2 guys here, 2 guys here." I drive in the car with them, and they talk with me while we're going of like what the plan is. I don't understand how Charlie was unaware, because maybe they really didn't think there was going to be a threat, to be honest. They thought they were in friendly territory and nothing could happen.
Maybe he delegated that authority out to someone else. And, because he's kind of, TPA is kind of huge. So he might have delegated the security to someone else to his.
They're with Charlie. They're standing next to him.
I know, but he, for stuff out in the buildings, the stairway, he might have delegated.
Who did?
Charlie might have.
Yeah, see, that doesn't happen. This is why I'm saying this makes no sense.
I know. I get it. I'm agreeing, but what he might have done, as Charlie Kirk might have done.
We've had security where I want to keep. I don't want to expose any kind of security faults or anything like that. We've had circumstances where we were like, "Hey, security," I want to equate this to something like a rooftop, a security exit, like a vantage point or a security issue, and we bring it up to security right away. I don't understand how this is possible, other than, look, to be honest, it's even hard to just believe incompetence. It really is. But that's where I'm going with Hanlon's razor. But my point, I say ultimately, is I'm shocked that anyone would take these statements seriously. Head of security saying, well, the cop said it was fine, so it was. This is ridiculous. We call the local police department before doing an event, and they say, you'll be fine. We still hire private security to secure the area. This doesn't. So I can simply say I think these guys are beyond incompetent, but I can certainly understand why then you're going to get millions of views on videos claiming something else is going on.
Yeah. I think the whole thing's fishy. I think you assuming incompetence is very charitable. Good
Hanlon's razor.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence of anything else. So although I think a lot of people are like, this is fishy, I agree. He also, according to a report, he said he couldn't fly a drone. And Frank Turk said they had a drone. So why would he say that? However, unless there's actual evidence to indicate other than just fishy, then I go with Hanlon's razor.
I get it. Yeah. I think it's, I get that. What do you think? I'm curious because I haven't tuned in, and I'm sure you've talked about this. I'm sure you have a theory. What do you think about the Google searches?
What do you mean?
Searches for like the VIN number on the getaway airplane.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Tyler. Okay, so one theory is that like Tyler James Robinson, middle name included, full name searched before the execution
who searched what?
Actually took place. I'll get there. So multiple Google searches, one being his full name, Tyler James Robinson, another one being the VIN number
from who
on the getaway. I'm getting there on the getaway plane, and then also the pilot of the plane, his name being searched, the exact town, all these kinds of things were searched between the TPUSA event that took place that Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith both spoke at, that a lot of people were upset about. A certain group of people in particular, and the actual assassination of Charlie Kirk. In between those time period, which was a matter of weeks, these Google searches took place, and they took place in Israel. And the only exception,
what's the proof of that?
And the only exception, well, that's a good question. I'm asking you, have you heard about it? What do you think about it? This is a
I've not heard about it, and I would say I've not heard about it, and I would say that the ability to collect evidence of Google searches, that's internal Google data, which would have to be leaked by a whistleblower. I don't believe that's real. That sounds made up.
Sounds made up. Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, from what I've heard is that people did this did the searches themselves before they were scrubbed and found it after the fact, after the assassination.
Found what, though?
And found that these things had been searched. And
how do you find that someone else somewhere searched for a thing?
I don't know. It's just a working theory that I've heard.
Well, I wouldn't even call it a theory. I mean, that sounds like how can you search for what someone else searched for in a certain region?
I don't know.
You can't.
I don't know.
You can look at Google Trend data, I suppose.
I think that's what it was, like looking at the trend, but then the searches were erased later on.
I mean, this sounds like someone made something up and just claimed it.
Maybe. But that's
watching Candace.
But the point is,
I don't think Candace even said anything that crazy.
I'm just throwing that out there. For fun.
But like you've got that. You've got, I mean, just even a 30 yacht 6, like getting, who was it that said like even in Charlie's final moments he was saving the lives of people behind him.
Yeah, it was cool that
superhuman. But
that's. I mean, look.
I'm just saying.
None of this is.
It seems fishy to me. It doesn't seem like just incompetence. It seems like lies.
Certainly, there seem to be things that are fishy, but everyone grandstands at a eulogy, right? I mean, right. Charlie's murdered, and the bullet doesn't penetrate, and so they write this grandiose thing to like make Charlie seem larger than life.
Right.
People do this all the time.
Yeah, I get. Why someone would write that. That makes sense.
To be fair, why someone would write that is they have no media experience and don't know how to do PR or communications. And so they're like, I'm going to write something that makes Charlie seem magic, and all it does is make things worse. Or, to get straight into the weeds, when Candace came out with these messages from Charlie, and then Colvett went on the Charlie Kirk show and said, yes, they're all real.
Right.
That's PR 101 no-no. That is like 18-year-old's first day in college. They say, if you're unsure of what's going on, say nothing. Like, you don't go on your show and just be like, what Candace is saying is true, but. Because it doesn't matter what your but is.
Right.
So my argument is, as much as it may be perceived as somewhat derisive to Andrew Colvett, I just don't think he understands PR. He doesn't understand communications. So he writes his message about Charlie's strong bones, and it's like, you don't do that.
But aside from what he wrote, still just the ballistics, the actual mechanics.
Yeah, none of that's fishy.
That gun.
Yeah, but
none of that's fishy.
Bullets do really weird stuff when they hit a medium, whether it be going into a body or going into, bullets just do weird things. So the idea that it's impossible that the bullet went into his neck and then hit his spine and, deflected or something like that or whatever. You hear all kinds of stories of people that get shot with a, 5.56 or with a 30 caliber bullet, and it enters here, and then because it hits the bone, it travels across their body and comes out in other places. Bullets do really weird things. So the idea that it must impact in the neck and then come out behind it, that is actually not realistic.
Cody's got to bounce.
Oh, you got to split. All right.
Yeah, I'm going to go get on another podcast, the Inverted World podcast.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to point out is the same guy that I'm talking to, who's like a former SEAL team guy, who told me, I don't buy it for a second. You check the doors. I mean, this is basic security. Bro, I worked security at a venue, and when I was 21, and I'm like, I weigh 150 pounds, 5'10", and they're like, your security, stand by this door, make sure someone doesn't walk through it. They don't expect me to fight anybody or shoot anybody or anything like that. They just needed someone staring at it with a walkie-talkie.
Right.
The same guy said, he told me as soon as it went down and the videos went viral, he went 30-06. And he was like, I knew exactly the ranges. I told my wife, man, I wish I was recording. I wish I made a video because I called it perfectly. And he's right. There's also a report that came out. There's a lot of people. This is fascinating to me. The first thing everyone said was it must be a professional hit because from that range it's too difficult. And that's a range a 12-year-old makes after an hour of training. People just genuinely do not understand what they're talking about. There was a peer-reviewed academic report that we covered that was old, that was re-highlighted. People have been like, guys, stop. There's a whole bunch of documented cases throughout modern warfare where it's like larger bullets did not penetrate because it hits bone, deflects, or otherwise. And so what happens is, this is why I can't stand the conspiracy theory people, because what are we looking at right now? I, with my experience in security, can tell you outright, this doesn't make sense for a security company to know roof access exists and not to check it. That's just like, you are worse than Walmart security. I'm sorry, man. Like, some of the security guys,
You're saying no conspiracy, but also it doesn't make sense. So again, just competent.
I'm saying the issue I take with the conspiracy people is they do things like, did you see how Charlie moved? It had to have come from behind. And this proves it because there's a bush in front of him. I literally had this debate. See that bush in front of him? That's where the shooter really was. And I said, so the bullet looped around his back? They do these things where they say stuff like, had to have been a professional. The range was too far. And then all of these people with no experience start spreading that nonsense, and it makes it difficult to actually break through what's going on. So here we have a real story where I can tell you, as someone who's worked with multiple security teams ranging from Walmart level security to active PMCs who go do, things in dangerous countries for lots of money.
Go and do stuff.
And they're going to tell me stuff that, like, we find this strange. And I go, that's interesting. That should be pursued. And then you get people coming out being like, we're tracking flight logs for planes. And it's like, yeah, somebody had a private jet. Doesn't prove anything. There's one video that I went through that, again, they're looking at Turning Point's 990 forms. Turning Point hasn't filed for 4 of their main shells, which is odd because every year on May 15th they filed. This guy who makes the video goes, why are the 990s missing? And it's like, well, calm down there. They're not currently available because October filing was a month ago. It doesn't mean they were missing. It doesn't mean they're destroyed, but he frames it as such. This guy made a video and he's like, on September 2nd, Charlie Kirk wrote a memo saying they were bringing on a new CFO and they were going to have a Doge-style audit. 1 week later, he was killed. And then Tyler Boyer on X says they're not doing the audit anymore. Why aren't they fulfilling Charlie's wishes with the audit? When in fact, Tyler Boyer said, we do an audit every year and we'll keep doing so. So these conspiracy guys twist things and make it so we can't actually figure out what's going on. That's what I can't stand.
Yeah. So
and then, with all due respect, you say, I heard there were Google searches in Israel, and I'm like,
I wanted to hear what you thought. So here's another one.
I'll tell you what I think. I think if there is deep state or any kind of conspiracy, they post things like that so that you won't question the obvious, and it makes people actually looking into it go off in weird directions that a regular person will call you crazy over. If I go to a regular person and say, did you know that Charlie's security team admitted they were aware of roof access and didn't check it? They'll say, really? I'll be like, text messages right here. They went on the Sean Ryan podcast and said it. And they're going to be like, that is weird. And then if I go, and also in Israel, they were searching on Google because someone found the files, they're going to say, you're a lunatic. Yeah. It is well known that, and I would say actually if there is evidence of a conspiracy, it's that post, not because it was Israel, but because someone's trying to throw you off the trail. It could just be crazy people online. But as with Pizzagate, one of the things that intelligence agencies do to stop actual digging into their malfeasance is to throw out false evidence to make you run in the wrong direction. This is why a guy showed up to Comet Ping Pong with a gun and fired into their floor because he was looking for the basement. The WikiLeaks emails from the DNC contained some kind of evidence of wrongdoing. And as people started digging through them, and we know for a fact that the intelligence agency of the United States were very pissed off about this. They wanted to kill Julian Assange over it. So what are they going to do? Nothing? All of a sudden, weird fake evidence pops up and some lunatic goes and shoots the floor of a pizza place. Whatever was actually going on with those emails, I think is worth digging into, but it tricked all of the online sleuths who are tracking this, decentralized, into going off into retard land.
Yeah. What do you think? Another question, because you guys have probably followed it more than I have. What did we ever get answers for the old guy who immediately tried to be a diversion and stood up?
He's a well-known guy from the official report. He's a well-known guy at the university who wasn't allowed to be there, who routinely causes problems and makes veiled threats and things like this. And he claimed that he got up and screamed because he was trying to help the actual shooter escape. So this is the important thing to understand about the left that we've already talked quite a bit about, the standalone complex.
Right.
When it came to the 2020 election, many people thought there was a coordinated effort to steal the election. Maybe, sure, I don't know. However, you don't need that. If you get 1,000 leftists who just think Donald Trump must be stopped at all costs, no one needs to tell them.
Right.
So when they're looking at a ballot and it says Donald Trump, but the signature's mushed, they go, can't read that signature, garbage. Then they pick one up for Biden, signature's mushed, they go, I'm pretty sure it's good. Whether intentionally or otherwise, you get enough people who are cultists and you don't need a conspiracy. So my point here is strange. The guy should be charged an accomplice or otherwise, but we don't really know just yet. I do think it's fair to say there are a lot of weird things in how this played out, but it's also hard to understand what is weird because we don't have these things happening on a day-to-day basis, so we don't have a control for which to compare it to. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.